Hi, this is Tom from the Blue Dot, and today we're going to take a look at the iPhone 4S. It comes in two colors, black and white. These are our refurbished cell phone models, and these are for Sprint. We're going to stick with the black model, so we'll put the white one aside for now. And upon handling it, it feels really good in your hand. I mean, I don't need to tell you that Apple makes really solid products. This feels like one solid piece. It actually feels like it's just a big thick piece of glass with metal wrapped around it. So like, I don't feel like any of this is going to come apart. Like, these two pieces are very obviously separate pieces, but they feel like underneath this piece of metal it just continues on. Like, they don't feel separate at all. So knowing that this is glass on both sides of the device, so it does, although it feels solid and one piece, I do feel like it being glass, that if I drop it, it will crack, which it might. So you might want to get a case for your iPhone, which is probably a pretty smart choice because iPhones are not cheap. Looking on the outside, we have the options button down here, the volume rocker, the lock switch, the headphone jack, power button. We have the SIM card slot, the camera, flash, all the serial number information and everything down there, charge port, speakers, and the microphone's hidden under there somewhere too. Alright, so let's wake this guy up. Just swipe to the right. And this is a This is a non-activated device, so there's a few things that I won't be able to do on it. I do have it connected to our Wi-Fi network, so I can do a few things, but not too much. Apple has some of the strongest restrictions than any other company out there. It's really difficult to have their phone go to any other service unless you purchase it unlocked from them. For instance, the Sprint phone won't work on any other service besides Sprint. Even though there are other services that use Sprint's network, you can't use it because of contractual things that Apple has with Sprint and Virgin Mobile and all these other companies separately. So they cannot be used together. The screen looks great. It's really crisp. It's really clean. It's bright. It has really good resolution. It's a 3.5-inch screen, so it's a lot smaller than a phone that I'm typically used to. I'm typically going Droid or Android or whatever, so the screens are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The iPhone 5 screen is taller, but it's not any wider than this is right here, which is fine because, I mean, some people don't really want a bigger screen. You can do everything on this device with one hand, which is pretty good. I mean, that's not a bad thing to have. The battery life is really decent. It's coming in at about 14 hours of constant talk. It'll last you a couple of days if it's just sitting there in standby. I mean, the more you use it, especially with 3G, the more the battery's going to go down. But it actually has very good battery life for a smartphone. Now, this is the 32 gigabyte model. Unlike Android devices, or most of them out there, you can't expand the memory of an iPhone. You can use the cloud, but typically whatever's on this device when you bought it, like either 8 gig, 16 gig, 32, or 64, whichever type of iPhone you got, that's all you're going to have on this iPhone. So they're really pushing the cloud at this moment, so you can save things remotely online and just get them as if they're streaming to your device. The only downside to that is, I mean, if you don't have a connection somewhere, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're just listening to music and you're streaming it from the cloud, it's going to stop playing after a while. But if you live in a city, it's probably not going to be that big of an issue. One thing I really like about iPhones is, even though I'm an Android fan, I do really like how just natural it feels to move everything around. Everything seems to move around perfectly, really smooth. One thing that I really like is the keyboard. I mean, I've gotten so many keyboards on Android. I really like Swipe on Android. It's one of my favorites, but this is just the most intuitive keyboard. I mean, it's just really good. It just feels really natural. It has a really nice click to it. And the letters just get really big when you put your thumb on them. They're just perfect. I mean, they really did a good job on the text messaging. Now, unlike the iPhone 4, this one has a slight hardware upgrade. It's very close to the iPhone 4. One of the major selling points is Siri, but the other selling point is that it has a dual core in it, so it's a slightly better hardware. It's a little bit faster. Some things will run on it a little bit better than the other one, but they're really close. So if you have an iPhone 4, you want to jump to the 4S, this might be a pretty obvious jump up. 5 a little bit more, of course, because it's 2 years difference, but if you're on the 4S, I wouldn't suggest going up to the 5. I mean, the 4S is just fine. But once the next one comes out in the next couple of months, you will probably want to trade it in, because then it'll be a 2-generation jump. That's what I suggest for most Apple users, is that if you have an iPhone, I would suggest just waiting every 2 years and get the one after, because typically each year the upgrade is just enough shy of making it worth the jump. But after 2 years, it's definitely worth it. All right, so let's check out the camera. Whatever. Okay. And the camera is pretty good. Let's put the other iPhone in front to have as an example. And the camera is pretty good. You can kind of select on the screen for what to focus on, which is really nice. It's probably getting a little confused with the reflection in there. And it takes really, really good pictures. Like that. It's just really, really clear. It takes good macro shots. People use this, especially people I know, use it a whole bunch for Instagram. And go back to taking pictures here. Alright, and we can go to options, see what else we have available. You can turn on a grid, HDR, panorama. And of course you have iTunes, you have the store, you have all the internet, 3G, push to talk, things like that. It's all here on the iPhone 4S. In my opinion, the iPhone 4 and 4S are like the best Apple phones that have come out. The design is just absolutely beautiful. It's perfect. It feels great in my hand. I have not gotten a chance to handle the iPhone 5, but it's pretty much, I mean, if you look at the iPhone 5, it's just a taller version of this. The design is just really, really good. It's pretty perfect. This phone is perfect for somebody who's just getting into smartphones. The Apple smartphones are pretty easy to understand. Everything's right in front of you. This device feels really good in your hand. It's smaller. It can fit in your pocket, in your purse really easily. And it just looks really, really nice, and it runs really, really well. The only big downside to Apple products is they're very restricted when it comes to what you can do with your own device. You can't customize it as much, but not a lot of people complain because some people feel like they don't need to customize it because it's that good. My opinion is slightly different, but I'm kind of biased in that. But this is a very good device. If you have any questions, just ask them below. I'll be happy to answer them. My name is Tom from Blue Dot. Thanks for watching.